Diane, when did you dedicate yourself to yoga personally and professionally?
I dedicated myself to yoga personally, probably it was 31 years ago. After my very first yoga class, I realized that this was something that I needed to pursue forever. And 15 years later, I discovered Ashtanga yoga. And it was at that moment that I knew that I needed to share this practice with as many people as I could. And that's when I decided to teach my friends. And then it spread from there.
Can you share a defining moment for you in your yoga practice? Anything at all?
Probably the most defining moment was the first class I took with Richard Freeman, who was the teacher who I first witnessed practicing the Ashtanga practice. It was a video that I had purchased and had been watching at home, and that's how I started the practice. And I went to take a workshop with him, and it was during that workshop with him that I was completely convinced that this was something that I needed to dedicate my life to.
Why do you think yoga can be intimidating for some, and how would you suggest to overcome it?
I think yoga is intimidating for some people these days because a lot of the images we see of people practicing yoga are images of people doing very advanced postures. And those postures take many, many years of dedicated practice to understand and to be able to execute safely and properly. So I think because of that, sometimes people have an idea of yoga being just too much for them and too hard for them. And the best way to overcome that is to begin to practice yoga with a teacher who's teaching a beginner class. So to find the right class so that you're in a class with people who have never done yoga before, just like you, and then the practice is broken down and taught in a way that it's accessible to everybody.
What do you find rewarding about being a yoga teacher?
Before I was a yoga teacher, I was a shiatsu therapist, which is hands-on healing therapy. And I did that for 15 years before I decided to teach yoga. And while I was doing my one-on-one therapy with people, I realized that so many of their complaints about how their bodies were hurting them and not functioning, so many of these complaints were related to stress that's being held in the body. And when I started to teach yoga, I realized that by teaching yoga, I could reach out to a lot of people, far more people than one-on-one, and just teach people how to take care of themselves so that people are less dependent on therapists to help them.
So then what qualities do you think that people should look for in an instructor and in a yoga studio?
I think everybody looks for different qualities in different people, and for me personally, it's, I guess, the quality of compassion and kindness that is paramount. But I know other people are really comfortable being with a teacher who's harsh and intense because it makes them work harder, and that's what they're looking for. So for me, it's definitely kindness and compassion, and also a teacher who understands physiology and anatomy, so they're teaching from an informed practice themselves.
What advice would you offer readers on how to integrate their diet and their lifestyle with their yoga practice so they don't feel like there's a disconnect?
I think what I find with people I know that begin to practice yoga, that the integration just begins to happen on a really natural level, on a day-to-day level. And just practicing yoga, that in itself makes you more aware of what's right for your body and what's right for your life. So I think it's just a daily practice that informs us as individuals on how to live our lives in a way that encourages health and happiness.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Thank you. My pleasure.